Welcome to the Through the Table podcast with Tom, Rick, Russ, JL, and Brian.
All right. I mean, if you just want to start with Eva Marie, we can do that.
Yeah, let's go there.
That was kind of the big news of the week.
Slow news week then, right?
Yeah, very slow.
Seriously.
Really.
Honestly, I guess I don't mind her coming back if they really think that it's going to be, if she's going to be some big draw, but like just the way they've kind of launched it already, just to me, it just seems like it's just doomed to fail. They bring her out with whatever Piper Niven or Viper or whatever, she's gonna. Drop is what I've heard, which is terrible.
Dewdrop. I don't know. They keep changing it a little bit.
But I just feel like, just from watching it last Monday and like her body language, where it was like, I just feel like the whole gimmick is just going to be like, obviously Eva Marie's a bitch, and like this girl's gonna like the fat friend that wants to be accepted, and it's just I feel like you can't do that unless like Piper Niven's going to get her comeuppance at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's supposed to lead to making her a big baby face, and I just don't see that happening with anything in the storyline. And it just blows my mind when you release girls like Ruby Riott and Santana Garrett, but you put this on TV, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
My issue with it is it's been done. The whole that arrogant, we have a match tonight, but you're not actually going to wrestle me. You're wrestling this person. It's been done. It's been done time and time again. Now, it's never been done, to my knowledge, with women, so that's kind of interesting. But, I mean, you're right. Where is this going to go? I mean, there's an obvious ending where Dewdrop, whatever they're going to call her, is going to turn on her and get the babyface push. But how long do we have to suffer through this tired old gimmick? And if we're saying it's tired after the first week, man, let's see a month from now where we are with it.
Is it going to last that long? Oh, go ahead.
It's going to end with Eva Marie becoming number one as the top manager of all time.
Oh, you know what? Maybe they'll do a thing where Piper wins the title and then hands it to her, just like Andre and Ted DiBiase.
I'd love that.
Well, if she stays as a manager, that's all right. I don't want to see her stepping into the ring again.
Ooh, that's ugly.
Yeah.
Bowling shoe ugly.
I was surprised they signed her back to begin with. I mean, she was atrocious.
I was in shock when I heard she was signed. I was like, you're a lower level. You know what I mean? You're like, you got rid of such stars. As,
with all the people that got cut and released. I mean, you can't use them better. And Eva Marie, I don't know.
Here's the thing, too. She hasn't been working the independent scene since she left. What was it, 4 years ago? Was it 3 or 4 years ago since she left?
At least 3.
She hasn't, I don't think, had one match in that time. So she was terrible then. There's no way she got any better doing nothing.
Well, she was modeling and acting, or supposedly modeling.
Yeah, modeling.
That's
not saying
modeling and trying a couple things in acting.
Trying, there you go.
A couple times.
It's like saying we're trying to podcast.
She might have the same agent or manager as The Rock. So
Khan. One of the top executives. That's why she's.
So that might help things.
Yep.
Oh, that makes so much sense then.
Yep. That's why she's back. That's the only reason.
Still
Probably
can't
won't
get over the sweatshirt.
I'll put the hood on too.
I am sweating looking at you for two reasons.
So she came back for the Rock and Cock connection because she's working with people with the Rock and she's working on Peacock now.
I want that on a shirt.
Yeah, really.
I don't even care what word goes first. I want it on a shirt.
And then, as you were saying, the return of Samoa Joe to NXT, quite a big thing there.
So I thought, I mean, I guess if he's not going to be an in-ring talent, like all the time, I guess this is the next best thing. But I do love the fact that like he's getting like he's in a physical role. Like, you know, he choked out Adam Cole last week, and I just think that's like, you know, William Regal, I guess, doesn't need a heater, but to give him one is kind of awesome, even though he's not a heel GM.
Yeah,
Far from it, I think. And you know, to have that as like a someone to just kind of keep it in line, I think that's cool. Plus, it gives NXT that, I guess, star power that I kind of feel like they don't have right now. Like, as weird as that sounds, with like, you know, you still have Gargano and Ciampa, but like, I just don't. It's not like NXT from like 2018.
well, you're right with the ratings. His segments were the highest rated segments for the two, at least when he came out and right at the end when he choked out Cole. Those were the two highest rated segments for the show last week. So people are watching for him. They definitely wanted to see what he was up to.
I just love the circumstances around his release, as we found out during this past week. The circumstances around the release and getting him back, which is Vince basically just saying, all right, go cut anybody who's making X amount of money. They take a look at Samoa Joe's contract, and at the time, he's just doing commentary, realizing he's making a ton more money than the other commentators, and like, all right, Joe, you're released. Vince, like, took him a while, I think, to realize, wait, we got rid of Samoa Joe? When did that happen? And they go and try to get him back.
Didn't AEW make a competing offer? And
They made an offer for more money. Yep.
He turned it down.
But the funny thing, as you were saying, is Vince is like, oh, we cut him. Like, I guess him and Triple H were saying, we didn't know you got cut. That was all on Johnny Laurinaitis. He did all the cuts. Everything goes through Vince. Like, come on.
Yeah.
John Laurinaitis is just going to be, do whatever you want, cut whoever you want. No, that's not how it works there.
No.
Like, you know, he didn't believe that for one word, but it's just funny how he goes, we didn't know. I swear to God. Sure, you didn't know.
So if he took less money, they obviously offered him something work-wise that AEW wasn't going to give him.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, location, you know, that's got to play a major part to it. But I'm wondering if he's set to be the NXT version of Brock Lesnar.
I don't know.
I mean, I would hope that it's like, you know, this turns into like a full-time in-ring return, you know, and I would love that him just, I mean, not mowing down everybody, but he's believable enough that he could kill pretty much anyone on the roster, but at the same time, he could also work and have a great match and, you know, and put on a good 15, 20 minute, 25 minute match and just, you know, for the work rate fans out there.
Yeah. I think this is perfect too, because if he went to AEW, he would have had to do more matches. I think if with his injury proneness past, recent and in the distant past, that he could gear up to a match and have an amazing match, and then God forbid he gets injured in that match, then he could then go back to being the commissioner or something like that, to kind of weed off a few months kind of thing. So that they don't have to trust him so much to be in the ring so many times. And maybe he's thinking that too. He's like, I live in Florida. I live in the Orlando area. I'm familiar with this. So if I can get this certain amount of money and just kind of just do it, and then wrestle from here and there. And then those matches will be like important, and like you can pull out all the stops, so to speak. Maybe that's interesting him more than anything else.
So it'd be like an NXT version of The Undertaker. He just goes balls out for a match, hurts himself, and then 6 months later he's back.
Perfect. And then have it all for the future documentary.
It'll probably stay on TV though, and like Undertaker, he'll just disappear for a while.
Right, because that's the thing. If at least if Joe gets injured, you could throw a suit back on and just choke out random guys. Keeping law and order, I guess.
Right, just keeping the law and order, and doesn't have to get physical all the time, right?
Right.
If he does it a few times, people are going to know. All right, I don't mess with him.
Right.
So I guess I had written something down where Vince was acknowledging that the product is stale now, and that when they go back on the road, things are going to change. Do we believe this or not?
Song "Loser."
How long does it last? Does he come back and do 2 weeks of good TV and then repeat again, or do we believe this or not?
Are him and Triple H playing good cop, bad cop at this point? Because you have Triple H last week saying, no, the fans are, they're the reason the product's not, whatever. And now you have Vince saying, no, you know what? We are stale. Which one's telling the truth? Which one? And I'm sure it's in the middle somewhere, right?
Right.
July 16th should change everything. For how long?
I can see a few weeks, maybe.
Yeah. Get to SummerSlam.
Until they get tired of, all the shows and they're keeping up with everything. And
here's something too, and I had this talk the other night with a buddy of mine. They've been doing this house show mentality for the last 16 months, right? This whole Thunderdome thing, they're not going all out because it just looks like a house show. We've said it.
Right.
So when the crowd comes in and they're starting to feed off the crowd, after working this way for 16 months, how many of these guys and girls are going to be able to get themselves up to actually be able?
Oh no!
Oh,
he'll be back.
That was a cliffhanger. But honestly, kind of like what, like I don't know if that's the point he was going to make, but I just there he is.
This will be an interesting edit.
Yeah, right.
Continue.
What happened there?
Well, I'm going to take this moment before you go to leave and then possibly come back. But if I don't, have a great show.
All right.
All right. Take it easy, Russ.
Thank you,
Later,
Russ.
in the next one or in 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see.
I all of a sudden feel like Sid during that pay-per-view. We're live, pal.
we're live, Pat.
Yeah, they're live.
but yeah, like how many of these guys or girls are gonna be able to get themselves up to the point where they can feed off the crowd? They haven't been in front of a crowd in 16 months. It's not an overnight thing. Yeah, it's like riding a bike, I'm sure, and you can get back into it, but for how long? Think about it with jobs that we've all done. You get to that point where you're kind of, all right, I'm in give up mode. Then you go to another job. But you got to get yourself up for it. And maybe for the first couple of weeks you do. And next thing you know, you're taking a nap on a break you shouldn't be doing. It just happens.
I mean, I could, I think they'll all be excited for the first few weeks while they're out there getting the crowd reactions and everything. And then don't forget they're going to be on the road now full time again. It's not going to be just fly down to Orlando or wherever, the Thunderdome is. Now they'll be Pittsburgh and Milwaukee and LA and Seattle. So they're going to get wear and tear again
over last night?
on the road. What's that?
Isn't the Thunderdome over from last night? From the, or I should say, from Hell in a Cell? This doesn't air live.
They're still with the Thunderdome for a couple of weeks.
Oh, I read it was.
Yeah.
I hope this was it.
They got till
the
July 16th.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Whatever.
I just think like what do they just think that like July 16th everything's just going to be
It's almost
okay.
like they're going to turn on a switch and boom,
Right.
all of a sudden it's going to change.
They got it.
Because they're still running crap storylines. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
Big
like
time.
you know, like who's Lashley gonna, who's I guess Lashley, like their number one contender, right? The next pay-per-view, is that the 16th, or is that, what are they doing? They're doing SmackDown.
It's, Money in the Bank is then.
That's the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like obviously they have to build somebody up to Money in the Bank.
Yep.
But how do you, like, you know what I mean? Like you're still building somebody up in front of nobody.
Yeah.
So it's just I just don't do people just expect it to be back to normal once, you know what I mean? Like the 16th, like you said, they're just gonna flip a switch and everything's just gonna be fantastic and awesome. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna take a long time. It's gonna take a real long time.
I completely agree. And the storylines are they're garbage. There's only two stories that interest me in any way, shape, or form. And it's the Roman Reigns thing with the Samoan Mafia. And honestly, RK Bro is the only two that are interesting me. And RK Bro is just interesting because it's funny. It's absolutely funny. This, surfer dude who's just trying to get like the serious guy who is just gonna RKO him at some point. It's just trying to get him to like him. And it's beautiful.
SummerSlam, I would figure.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see them just turning a switch on, and all of a sudden it's like, the Attitude Era in the middle of the 90s that's what the next show is going to be like when there's a crowd there. Their writing hasn't shown you they know what the heck they're doing. They don't care. Oh, we're back again.
Oh, wait. Oh, Mr. Guest.
Who is this?
We do have
That's
a
my
Mr.
friend
Guest.
Eric, who is a big wrestling fan.
Hello.
Am I sideways or am I right?
You're sideways now.
Sideways.
Okay.
Now you're right.
Carry on.
Go ahead, Jill. What do you think?
Really, I think that at first I'm surprised that at first the gates haven't sold out, to be honest. But yeah, it's going to take some time to rebuild, and if it does rebuild, it has to have good stories, and I just don't think they're cutting the mustard right now. I mean, not that I've tuned in a lot. I watched everything else, which is my problem. But what I do hear of it, of WWE, but so I'm not like an expert here. It's just running the same old storylines they always run.
Yep.
Like, X has a problem with X, and then they like do the same old thing. Like nothing new under the sun from them. And then they're like, so I guess I'm just saying, if they don't change because of the crowd, I think it's going to have a slow decline.
If they don't change because of a crowd, they'll never change at that point.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is like now is their time to refresh with the crowd, and if they aren't capable, they shouldn't have it.
So that's the point that I made earlier. So does that make Triple H's statement correct that they don't care about the storylines because the fans are the problem anyway? They feel like they're doing what they can do and putting a good product out there, and the fans are just overly critical? Or is it what Vince said, and that no, their product is stale? Which one's right? Because honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. We're recording this now. Raw just started 2 minutes ago. I couldn't care less.
I couldn't either. Like, I haven't watched it in a year.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Why would I?
It used to be must-see television, appointment-only television.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Granted, we were lucky enough to be a part or to be around during the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, which were amazing. But even 10 years ago, those Monday night shows were fantastic.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care to see the same match over and over again, which, and I'm sure we'll talk about that from the pay-per-view last night. Because how many times can you see the same match over and over again? It's like, enough. We get it.
And they're not. And no, I'm not. I'm definitely not one who's always like, "Oh, they pushed the wrong guy." But come on, the ones that are getting the reactions aren't getting to the titles, or aren't, and the titles should be the draw. You know, like you should like people want to see people become the world champion, and people want to see there be hope. But Vince McMahon recently dictated that every match has to have a storyline. That's why all of a sudden
the next topic was that.
Good segue.
Yeah.
There you go. So say what it was.
So Vince McMahon said that everybody has to have a storyline because the only reason why Jeff Hardy put his career was on the line was because that match had to have a story. But did it though? Like, why did it have to get so extreme? I don't know.
Let me ask the question: why did Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have their 3 millionth match last night? What was the storyline there? I didn't watch the show, so I don't know.
Because they took the Rey Mysterio Roman Reigns match off the pay-per-view, did it on Friday night, and like, oh crap, we have another 15 minutes we need to put in something. Let's throw these two guys. These two know how to work with each other. They've done it enough times. Just go out there, do what you did last week.
Yeah, you don't need anything, right?
that blew my mind that I turned on SmackDown and they had that match was on. Like, I can't believe you put that on.
Why was it even on SmackDown?
Well,
ratings.
I can tell you why.
Oh.
Fox is mad now that they're leaving all the good stuff for either Universal or for the Peacock Network and all the the pay-per-view and stuff, and they're taking their in quotes good matches away. Fox isn't happy about the whole deal.
The ratings
so they
on Fox are terrible too.
They basically
I thought
demanded
the Fox
the
ones
match.
were pretty good.
No, they've been going
Not where
down.
Fox wants them.
Mm-hmm.
See,
They've
that's one of the reasons why it's not going to get any better.
Yep.
Is if they have to answer to, another company. You know what I mean? You just gave away your pay-per-view main event 2 days before on, because that easily would have headlined the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
watch the pay-per-view, but
yeah.
that was supposed to.
Yes.
So yeah, you just
And
throw
their
it
top
out.
story.
They basically said, I don't know exactly how they did it, but it was such a wanted match that they had to move it and give it to you on SmackDown. That was basically the synopsis on why they moved it off the pay-per-view.
That's
Just
why.
insane.
In 2021, I can safely say Rey Mysterio is not a wanted commodity that everyone needs to see on Friday night and can't wait till Sunday.
Well, they're running out of opponents for Roman again.
That's the problem.
Which is true.
Yep.
You've got to find someone. I mean, yeah, it's Mysterio. He's not, but who else are you going to throw out there? I mean, I don't know. You know he's going to win whoever he fights, but you're running out of people.
The whole every match needs to have like a storyline and importance is just, it's ridiculous to me. So, all right, we get it. It's gimmicked up, right? It's a work. We understand that. But you have title belts. The purpose of a title belt is everybody should want to hold one of those title belts. If you are a professional boxer or an MMA, your whole purpose in life is to compete for one of those title belts. So if you're a Mike Tyson, you're going to fight a Leon Spinks. It's just going to happen. Might not be a title match, but it gets you to the next fight, which then gets you to the next one, which then gets you to the title match. There's your storyline. There's your importance. You don't need to have, oh my God, is this Jeff Hardy's last ever match? You're going to put his career on the line. No. He wants a title just like anybody else. So he needs that match to get to the next match, to get to the next one. That's where the storyline should be. Make more importance on the titles.
Right.
Storyline right there. I'm fighting for a title belt. I've got to get there, so I've got to go through all these people. There you go. It doesn't have to be complex. It can be real simple.
Right, but even like in 70s and 80s wrestling, it was most matches didn't have a storyline. It was if you won, you got more money. If you won, that if you lost, you didn't get as much. There was pretty much championships and the pay window. You know what I mean? Like, and that was it.
You got to say pay window like Dusty.
Pay window, if you will.
Can't say pay window, right? You got to say it like him.
I always wanted to start an independent federation that after every match, the winning wrestler would walk right over to like an APA style window, and they would get their envelope.
Nice.
Pay window wrestling. There it is. PWW. Trademark it.
Oh, that is good.
Fantastic.
Well, that's how the XFL was built: championships and paydays.
That's it.
Yep. Very true. So that brings me to the next point, the draft they were talking about in September or early
we're
October.
doing that again.
Yep. And once again, USA and Fox are fighting over it because they want to be basically running who gets put on what show, not the WWE.
Yeah.
So this is
much
once
like we
again,
just mentioned.
it's going to get ugly. I don't know how they can please everyone and make him happy. I just don't know.
So you have a white hot baby in Drew McIntyre. You basically take the title off of him. You think he's getting it back at Mania. Completely white hot. Finally has a crowd in front of him where he could have that moment. They don't do it.
Yep.
Now they got him lose at Hell in a Cell for the sole purpose he's that #1 draft pick going to SmackDown. Guaranteed. And it's all for this draft. Everything that they're doing is for the draft. So we talked earlier about July 16th and, can they sustain the live crowd and the excitement and all that? I think that everything is going to be kind of trudging along until the draft. I think they're going to reset themselves in the draft. That's that pivotal moment. Yes, the crowd coming back next month. Yes, 100% agree.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. Like the draft always to me should have been a reset. Yep. Last year's was ridiculous when Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins moved over. It's like the feud's done, dude. Like now you're chasing each other on brand. That was silly to me when they would do that. I know why they did it.
Yeah, I was going to say that was mostly backstage stuff.
That was all backstage stuff when they were trying to shuffle Raw guys onto SmackDown. So
that's the problem I had is the last couple of drafts that they've done, they've changed people back and forth, but then 2 weeks later they move this guy over, they move that guy over, or there's a wild card rule invoked. So these guys are allowed to be here for 5 weeks at a time, or that guy's allowed to go there. It's like you need to just come up with the set guys if you're going to do this is our roster and that's your roster. There's no in between. Like the Royal Rumble and the Survivor Series, they do that. Fine, whatever, but they'll be like, oh, the ratings are down. Who can we send over there to make the ratings go up? You can't rely on that. You just have to have 2 set schedules, and that's it. Don't keep changing everything. It makes the draft meaningless, where it's been the last couple of years.
Right.
And sending the guys over from one show to another because the ratings never help anyway.
No.
Write better storylines. Get better gimmicks. Do something that's going to compel me to turn the TV on. Because like we said earlier, we're now 11 minutes in that show. I don't care. I couldn't care less it's on. Give me a reason to turn the show on.
They're so deep with the talent they have, there shouldn't be a reason why they can't do this. Just look at the 3 brands and all the guys that aren't even being used. I mean, there's so much talent. They're there. They have to figure it out. That's the problem.
This is arguably the most talented and physically gifted roster that they've ever had. And in all honesty, you look through all the generations, I don't think that other generations can do the level of work that these guys can do.
Right.
But they're so underutilized, and the storylines are just god awful. We got to find a way to tap into this, and it's just not happening.
Right.
Did you see? I think it was released a couple hours, maybe an hour or two ago. I read Karrion Kross and Bronson Reed are both backstage at Raw tonight.
They were backstage at SmackDown too. They're having matches in front of the producers right now.
I read that they were. Great. I read that they were supposed to possibly debut on main event, do main event matches.
Well, the last I had heard about that on the weekend was that they're going to be in the draft, and they're bringing guys up just to get used to how the matches work on the main roster, different than NXT. I don't. They fought each other at SmackDown, so I don't know if they're doing the same thing tonight. He's your NXT champion still, isn't he, Cross?
Yeah, and Bronson's Bronson's the North American. Yeah, so both.
Who are the tag champs? You might as well bring them up at the same time as well.
Right. My
bring
thing
everyone.
is
Anyone with the title, you need to come to the main roster. Let's just screw them over again.
Wow.
It tells you there's no planning. You could plan it out. All right, you have 3 months to do, get the belt off of him or something, and he's coming up. That's plenty of time to figure things out. Oh, we want him tomorrow. That's not how it works. It shouldn't be.
I get we're long past the days of the slow build-up, and back when we were kids, you would have Mania being built up from the year before. And it would, you build the storylines up slow. I get that. We're a long ways from that. Man, we need more than 24 hours. Maybe more than a week. And I've said this on this podcast already. There should not be matches added on Friday Night SmackDown for the Saturday WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. It just shouldn't happen. You shouldn't have a 24-hour notice of a match coming on for the biggest show of the year. It just shouldn't happen. And they do this so much. Like, again, last night, why was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens wrestling last night? Where did that come from? How did that come about? But here we are.
Fight forever is the answer.
There it is.
Fans chanted it, and someone heard and said, "Fight forever." We can satisfy that.
At least you didn't get the Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin grudge match, I guess.
That was the second option.
Yeah, there's their second option, right? They taped that for main event instead.
See, that's the thing that's killing me is I don't watch main event, but I hear like Ricochet and Mustafa Ali are just like tearing it down.
Yep.
Why not have that on Raw? You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good question.
What's like?
Oh, you're right. They taped main event and Karrion Kross beat Shelton Benjamin. Bronson Reed beat Drew Gulak. So they did record their matches.
That's wild.
It doesn't say if they had the titles or anything like that, but those were the two matches for it this week.
That's
makes
unreal.
No sense. Yeah, I don't get it.
So tomorrow night there will probably be an NXT title match, impromptu, and I guess we all know what's going to happen there. Awful.
Yeah, you got to take them, unless they're working both. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? If you're just having your champions just mowing down, I should say mid-card guys, but I mean, it still seems like as much as NXT is a third brand, it's still kind of like a step down. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, I feel like NXT champ in WWE mid card is kind of almost one and the same.
Yeah.
It's I just at this point, if you take the belts off them, like we were saying earlier, there's nobody. It just seems like there's no viable, like, number two at either spot. I mean, I guess you could always put the belt back on like Gargano or Adam Cole, but at that same thing, it's you're going back to
going down
what's comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like that's like all of wrestling, AEW too. There's no, what I mean? I can't see anybody taking that belt off of Omega either.
No, I agree with that. I was just thinking that there's no number one contender really. What, Jungle Boy's going to take it? Come on.
No. He's not going to lose it for a little while.
Still blows me away that's Luke Perry's kid.
Yeah, well, it does me too.
And he's going to be on Celebrity Family Feud in a couple weeks.
As he should be. I didn't realize that was his kid. That was said to me a couple of weeks ago, and I have been mind blown since. And now I can see it. I can actually see it in his face. Like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they say they're going to start pushing him a little bit higher, but they're going to get rid of the Jungle Boy part of the gimmick, so he's going to be Jack Perry more than Jungle Boy, say, from now on soon. So
Yeah, because I think they want him to really be pushed.
well, they were supposed to last year, but everything happened. They stopped it.
What happened last year?
The pandemic happened.
Where was I?
You were apparently. I'm not sure where you were.
So I do like Jungle Boy. I think he's definitely going to be a big star like in the future. But it's kind of like what we were saying earlier. With him, I think a slow build would be like a real slow would be good for him.
Well, they've been kind of doing that where he gets a win over somebody here and there that you're like, or he goes in with Jericho and all that. They've been kind of little bit here and there. They're not going to throw him in and say, hey, you're going to beat Omega on Saturday. That ain't happening. We're not there, but he'll slow build it for sure. Yeah.
So speaking of AEW, I had something I wanted to cover off on, and if we were still doing positive and negatives, this would be my negative. I understand that he's the son of a Hall of Famer and a legend. I understand that. But bringing up a guy who's as green as possible, who has the aesthetic of a mound of Jell-O, not a good idea and not a good look on Friday night. Arn Anderson's kid is not ready to be on a national television show.
No.
And I think if his last name wasn't Anderson, he would be curtain jerking a high school gymnasium somewhere, maybe in Wakefield, Massachusetts. Just saying.
Probably,
and no knock on him. He will get there.
No, I hear you.
He's going to get there at some point.
Book it.
He'll go up against Jacques Rougeau because Jacques Rougeau loves doing things like that. But
that's true.
The best thing about Brock Anderson is the fact that you can't tell that he's like 20 years old or 55 years old. It's just
like his dad.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
They've never aged. They never will age.
His dad's looked the same for 40 years. I don't know how old the man is.
The only reason why he looks that way is child's blood. That's the only way.
But no, and it's not. And again, it's not a knock on him. It's something AEW loves to do. They love to bring in guys that just, we talked about it with a go-go. These guys that they might be there, they're just not quite ready for prime time.
Yeah.
Well, another one that they sure love is Jade Cardell.
Yep.
She's nowhere
I was
near
going to
ready.
say Jade was mine.
She's nowhere near ready. Down the road, for sure, you can see it. She has the look, the attitude, and all that stuff, but she's greener than green could be.
Yeah.
Not as green as Brock, but pretty close to it.
Oh,
Her
he
promos
looks so
are
bad.
terrible.
Yeah.
Her promos are. I cannot stand her promos.
That's why they gave her Mark
Sterling's there
Sterling.
now. Yeah, so she doesn't have to talk as much.
With Brock, you knew last week, the week before, when he's in the ring with Cody and his dad, you could just see it. He just stood there like he didn't know what to do with his arms. It looked like it was his first time ever in a ring. He didn't know what to do with himself. He didn't know how to react. He didn't know what he was doing. And I'm like, if this is him and he's just standing there, what's he going to do when he...
And we're accomplices in a robbery.
Sorry. I have to go rob somebody. So
This was his meeting.
You should probably turn the camera off again.
good times for the rest of the show. I keep interrupting Tom, but I will use that as my gimmick.
All right.
I like it.
I will see you on the next one.
All right. See you later.
Bye, Ross.
Bye.
But yeah, they do this a lot, though. They just bring guys in and girls who just aren't just quite ready yet, and they have a big enough roster where they don't need to do that. Yeah. They need an NXT. They need their version of NXT. Some sort of developmental where they can put these people down there and get them prepared, get them ready before they bring them up. Their roster's too big. They don't need to be wasting time on Brock Anderson. They don't need to be wasting time on some of these people who just aren't there yet.
Well, when they start back up on the road, they say that the dark show is basically going to turn into like a developmental brand where they're going to use the Nightmare Factory or someone's gym, and they're going to tape, say, 6-7 weeks of TV down there with all the dark and, the lower tier guys and probably like mid-term guys. They'll bring in a few other guys if they're going to highlight the matches, but basically it's going to turn into like kind of a developmental show, not territory, but a show,
Right.
So at least they'll have something with them.
Right. Yeah, you fly down some of the, like you said, the mid card guys to the Nightmare Factory. You have all the students, and you can have you have the you can just have the students as the job guys or whatever. You even have a few student versus student main events, I guess, or whatever. And because I know they were doing that YouTube show, it's like the Nightmare. I forget it's like a Nightmare
Factory,
Showcase or whatever. Yeah.
Nightmare Showcase, right. It's like, I think they've done 1 or 2
I think 2
with all their students. Yeah, they're going to use them as more of like the enhancement guys for some of the lower tier guys that have people know from Dark, at least have a little bit of a name now.
Right.
And at least it'll get those kids some work.
Because I remember seeing
work somehow.
Yeah, I remember seeing a few of the names from the first showcase. Like, did a couple darks afterwards and stuff like that. Like, I know a few of the female talents and stuff. I think one of them even made it on the Dynamite at some point. And yeah, that should be good. I mean, it's better than having 3.5 hour empty arena matches. You know what I mean?
Right.
For no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could still do, like what they were doing before on the road. They'd have like just the 2 or 3. The dark was like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They could go back to that.
I actually have to head out. Sorry about that. You guys continue. Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll get your top 5 later.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Yelling Russ up?
Yeah. He's helping Russ up. he needs a driver.
You got a text, and now he's on his way. Quick, they found us.
Tony Khan was saying was that they're going to tape Elevation before Dynamite. So they're going to do, say, 3 or 4 matches. And then on the weeks that Rampage is on tape, they're taping that after Dynamite.
So is that what that is? It's just going to be like another that's what they're taping it after Dynamite?
Not every week, just here and there.
Oh, okay.
I know they announced earlier today, I want to say the August 11th and August 13th show, which is the premiere of Rampages in Pittsburgh, both shows. And they'll both be live, obviously. And I know the week before, the week of the pay-per-views are always going to be live, too. So there's at least, and probably the week after, there'll be at least, say, 2 out of 4 weeks will be live.
It's kind of like how the WWF used to do it. Not the WWE, the WWF used to do it with Raw. Raw would be live 1 week. Usually it was the night after a pay-per-view, and then the next 3 weeks they were. Remember sitting through those TV tapings?
Yep.
God, those are long nights.
I think it's going to depend on like what venues they're in too. If they're in some of their bigger markets or bigger areas, they might want to tape Rampage. If it's a huge crowd, then have to do a second night somewhere else. I don't know if they're going to try to book different arenas. It's in Pittsburgh. They're using the same arena. I know when they're taping Full Gear or doing Full Gear in November, it's in the same arena for both Rampage and the pay-per-view, which is kind of different. But I guess we'll see. I don't know if they're going to, if you try to find a smaller place to do Rampage from, it might, you'd probably be, because colleges are in, it seemed like they're running a lot of college arenas and areas like that. So colleges in town, they have their basketball teams and their hockey teams. You might have a tough time saying, oh, we need this arena for 3 nights. Yeah. It might not be able to do that. I'm not sure.
It's going to be interesting because Britt Baker, obviously from Pittsburgh, how does AEW book that? Because you know that if it was the WWE, Vince would have her lose the title in front of her friends and family because he loves to do that.
Happening. She's promoted on the picture for both. It's
Sure
just
is.
it's her in the middle with both dates on each side of her. So there's no doubt what they're doing there. It's homecoming.
Yep.
So speaking of homecoming, like I know I follow Eddie Kingston on social media, and he was promoting the Arthur Ashe Stadium, you know, show that. When is that? That's in September
22nd, I believe.
So I'm definitely interested to see if they can fill that stadium. Like I feel like that's a tall order for them, but
I think we're going to be surprised how fast the tickets go. Mark Henry was on Busted Open Radio saying that he has a ton of people that he knows from New York, and they say there's the buzz around New York this past week is amazing for it. Nothing with the WWE. It's all AEW and Arthur Ashe. People are asking, how can we get tickets now? And it's not even on sale for almost another month.
Mainstream media has been covering it.
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream media is all over this. When was the last time you saw mainstream media do anything other than a WWE thing? And even that, it's few and far between, right? Unless it's like, you know, another untimely, you know, wrestling situation.
Sure, right.
I love what they're doing with this. I absolutely love it. Give it a few months, let everything really get back to normal. But I'm loving everything they're doing with it. This is Tony Khan's sticking the flag in someone else's country and claiming the land for his own. Going right to New York.
They haven't said it yet, but I know they have not an exclusive deal, but he signed a multi-show deal there because it has a roof, so he can run shows in the winter there. It's not just a tennis venue that just is only open for a few weeks a year or whatever. They have a roof, their heat, air conditioning, so he's in it long term. He's saying something like it was 16 months they've been negotiating to bring him there. They probably would have run a show already there, I'm sure, last year or fall time, you know, whenever. I mean, the week before they were in Newark down at the Prudential Center, and that one's under 500 tickets left, so it's at least 15,000 right now. And then that one, the building holds over 22. I mean, some seats they're not going to be able to sell because of the stage and all that stuff, and that doesn't include anything that they put on the court. But you're going to get probably around 20,000 for that. If Mark Henry and everyone's saying, like, expect it to sell out, they must know something. They're just not going to run a venue without, well, let's run this massive venue. Like, say, let's run the Hoosier Dome or something in Indianapolis, not knowing, you know, we're going to get 70,000 people there. 20 just in New York City. I mean, Buzz alone, who knows? Kingston could buy a bunch of tickets just for his family alone. It might be 500 people. Mark Henry, he works with all sorts of kids in the Bronx and Queens and all. They might
Santana
be giving,
and Ortiz.
He might buy thousands of tickets just for the kids in those areas. I mean, you think it'd sell out just by them buying tickets for each other. I know tickets are going to be, that day is going to be wild. I expect it to be wild.
Something big's going to happen on that show. And you know, you got to wonder does this get Vince to finally look at AEW as legitimate competition? Because I know up until now, he hasn't really been viewing them as that. Great upstart company is probably what he sees them, but he never has really said or acted as if, okay, we got to step up our game a little bit. These guys are for real. I hope this gets him to do that because I want the WWE product to improve. Wrestling hasn't been the same since Vince bought WCW, and in my opinion, that was the biggest mistake in the history of professional wrestling was when Vince bought WCW because he bought his competition. Burger King isn't going to buy McDonald's and vice versa. They need each other. You need competition. Wrestling hasn't been the same since Vince bought it. Now we're actually having some competition, and I'm hoping that as a result, they're going to, feed off of that. And I mean, you get excited now when someone shows up, right? Like when Mark Henry shows, like, oh my goodness, that's Mark Henry. What's he doing there? It hasn't been like that in 20 years. There's an excitement to that. So I'm just hoping that, this New York show really beefs that up a little bit.
Well, it should if McMahon sees that as that's like their home territory. You know, like you're coming into my backyard with this. Like it should get him his juices flowing, his blood boiling. Like he should be ready to fight.
Yep.
Not so what are we doing for Raw tonight? Not what?
I got it. Kevin Owens, where are you and Sami Zayn? Get out there.
Sammy's on SmackDown. Oh, I want him.
They haven't wrestled in a week. Let's get them back out there.
So do you remember when a couple years ago when New Japan and Ring of Honor they did the joint show at Madison Square Garden?
Yep.
Because WWE didn't run there for what, like a couple of years?
At least 18, 19 months at minimum. And yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
They had that deal with Barclays Center for all the big shows.
Right. And it was just, ROH and New Japan. They do the MSG show, and then less than 6 months later, they did the back-to-back Raw and SmackDown.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So I'm sure
they were gonna let other people come in, like AAA wanted to do a show, and
right. I remember that.
A few other people wanted to come and do shows, and Vince didn't want to make it. He wanted, I'll run some shows here. I know it's a tough place to run because it's all unionized with MSG.
Right.
So you're not allowed to bring in chairs. You can't even set up your own ring, your own lights or anything. It's all unionized, everything. So it takes like 3 days to set up everything. So a lighting crew comes in and does the lights. They only work for like 5 hours, and then they go home. Then the ring crew will come in, put your ring together, piece by piece. It's a real hassle. That's why I don't think AEW really wanted to run there. They wanted to find somewhere else to run. Barclays, they probably go. They may have asked, and they're like, "No, WWE's our hometown." That's why they went to Newark. I think he had Arthur Ashe kind of like in the background there, like, "That's in New York City. I'll run there." It's tough to run MSG. It's really hard. All that stuff that you got to do.
Right. Didn't you say too that that WWE was trying to run a show at that Arthur Ashe?
It's one of those days. God. They this was back probably, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago when they built the huge stadium, because they had a small one and they redid it, so they added like a roof and boxes and like I think another like 8,000 or 9,000 seats to it. So they enlarged the place, and they said they didn't want wrestling there. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't like Vince. I don't know. But they said, they tried. Maybe Vince just gave up. But I guess Tony Khan didn't give up.
Right. I'm sure maybe
16 months he's been working on this to happen. And he's not going to do it just for one show. I bet there's 3 or 4 scheduled. Tentative, like, we'll come back twice a year for 2 years or something like that,
Especially if
totally see that.
Right, especially if you what you were saying, if speculation has it, if it's going to sell out or close to a sellout, I mean they'd be dumb not to go back if they were running a Gannis Arena, 6,000 people.
Right, 6,000. Yep.
So it's just like you go like I would definitly would rather run Arthur Ashe Stadium than a Gannis Arena. You know what I mean?
I'm sure the rent's twice, a lot worse. But that doesn't matter. Tony Khan buys, music for wrestlers and stuff like that. I mean, they say they're in the red because of the video game thing. They gave like $10 million to them to make it. He's got the money to burn. I mean, it's not the fact of that, It's making a statement. If you're gonna run a big promotion, you're going to run New York City, you're going to run Chicago. They haven't been out to LA yet. That's coming down the road before too long. Something with LA's coming. Every big area he's going to want to run. You're not looked at as a big company unless you do run all these big areas. I mean, they're going to go to the UK. Probably won't see that till next year, I would think, if everything works out over there. But something will come that way. But the other interesting thing is they named it Grand Slam, or is that what they named it? And
Grand Slam.
New Japan named their 2 shows coming up Grand Slam in that same area. I think it was like September 7th and 8th. I'm just wondering if there's something going on that it's going to come down that we haven't heard yet.
I mean, that would be a pleasant surprise.
Just thinking,
Right.
Because there's also the rumors of either Paul White or Mark Henry actually working their first match for AEW on that show.
Oh, okay.
One or both. I don't know, but I've heard possibility of either or other, both, because that Forbes article they did, I don't know, you saw the picture on it? Big Show is in his wrestling gear in that picture.
I was just going to bring that up.
Sure is.
He's going to fight before too long.
Yep.
What a perfect time and make it there, you know? Have it at New York. Make it the big show. Like, really, you're pulling out all the guns for it.
Right. Do you just do Big Show versus Mark Henry just for the hell of it?
Oh,
Like,
wow. That would
you know?
be one. That would be one match you could do. I didn't think you'd go there, but you could.
I mean, I kind of feel like I don't know, both of them.
I'd like to see Suzuki versus Big Show.
That'd be awesome.
Big Show versus Marco Stunt.
Marco's one of those where he can go the way of our, just, you know, he can just kind of let his contract lapse. He really isn't needed anymore. It was a fun story at the beginning, but not anymore with him.
Right. Yeah, he's one of those guys. It's kind of like what I was saying last week. It was just there's like a certain tier of AEW guys. Like now that all these WWE guys are getting released, you know, like, I mean, I love Joey Janela, but I can't see him being on AEW TV much longer. Like,
No.
you know, Marco Stunt, you know, like just all those, just
Brock Anderson.
You know, Brock Anderson. Now he's
Give him
gonna
a couple of years.
he's gonna beat Miro for the TNT Championship soon.
Oh boy. Oh. Darby Allin's little friend. Russ wanted to bring up the 24/7 title disappearance. Too bad he's
where
not
did
on
that go?
that. It's gone now. That's interesting. Was it USA that wanted that title, or was that Fox that wanted that title? I know one of them almost demanded they make it. I can't remember which one it was.
I can't either.
It was one or the other, right?
Because it was on Raw. It debuted on Raw, right?
Right.
So I'm going to assume that if it was debuted on Raw, then
for a while when Gronkowski had it and other people had it, it was on SmackDown for a little while at one point. And now it was back on Raw, but then it disappeared again.
JL made the point earlier, we were talking about Eva Marie, about will that storyline even still exist in a couple of weeks? And that's a great question, because here's the 24/7 title that just disappeared with no explanation.
Yeah, it was a good point. I don't know what's happened to it. No, they've never talked about it. I never see. Who is it? R-Truth had it, I'm assuming, like his 500th reign.
Even if he lost it, he found a way to get it.
Right.
Yeah, him
Either
and
way,
Tozawa are the only
you don't
ones.
see either of them walking around in the back. It'd be funny just if they were back there with the title, just hanging out, like in the background somewhere. Just, hey, look what I got. No one's fighting me for it. You know, it's gone. Poof.
I mean, it did kind of get to a point where they did everything they really could with it. I mean, you're pitting people on, NFL Game Day and things like that, which is cool. They did some awesome stuff with it. Santa Claus is getting involved and all that. They did cool stuff, but honestly, how many times do you have a title change hands in one night where you're like, okay, now what do we do with it?
Or in the middle of a big match, all the guys come running around ringside, and then they disappear, and you're like, well, what was the point to that during that match? Like, just stupidity.
And then the match you're watching ends. They decide just to cut to commercial. You come back and it's a brand new match. Like, what happened to that one?
Yeah, right.
I always thought that they missed a huge opportunity with the 24/7 title, like the fact that they never brought back any of the Mean Street Posse at least one time.
Right.
One time. Like Pete Gas just shows up on Raw to pin R-Truth.
Yes.
I think he was the last active wrestler of the three of them, so he probably could show up for a show. It was only a couple years ago he retired. I think Rodney had back surgery and he can barely walk now.
Oh, jeez.
And I know the one that wasn't really Shane's friend there was a Joey Abs.
He was actually
was an actual wrestler. Yeah. I don't know where he went off.
Did they only have Joey Abs just because they needed someone who could actually work?
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Yep,
that's exactly what that
so
was.
the other two didn't have any wrestling, nothing. They didn't even go to school. They just were put in the ring. Because it got over, they wanted to use them, so they said, all right, well, we've got to get them somebody that can work.
Joey Abs. It's the best they could come up with for a name.
Pete Gas actually wrote a book,
Oh, yeah?
like a My Life in the Mean Street Posse kind of book or something like that. Yeah.
It was a great gimmick. It was such a good gimmick. Probably one of the most underrated factions ever, too. They were hilarious, but they were damn entertaining.
It's actually funny. Yesterday, my daughter went shopping and she comes home. She said, what, Dad, want to see what I bought? And I'm like, sure. She holds up. I bought this sweater vest, and I go, what are you in the Mean Street Posse?
Yeah.
And my wife just looks at me and goes, she's not gonna know what the hell that is. I said, I know, but I enjoyed it.
It's all that matters.
I popped myself.
I went to a Centrum show with I think it was with Russ and JL, and we all dressed up as the posse for that show.
That's amazing.
I believe it was us three, and it was they were on Heat, and they basically put us on TV a bunch of times because we were in the outfits.
That's
way back in the day. Yeah, it was quite funny. I don't know if there's any other points I had written down to go through. Because it really, as you said, was a very slow week. There really wasn't a ton of news.
Super slow news week.
Yeah.
We kind of hit everything we could.
I think so.
Except for the pay-per-view. I didn't watch, but
I didn't watch it either.
Nothing much happened.
I fell asleep during the Lashley McIntyre match. I tried to watch it.
It was a roll-up victory, I guess, what they said.
Your guess is as good as mine. I woke up and I was like, oh, the pay-per-view's over.
And I guess at some point, the only thing I heard, which everyone was laughing about, is McIntyre was on the outside of the ring, and a hand came out from underneath the ring while he was laying down, and no one knows who hand it was.
It was like, did they mention hey, that was a hand?
No one said a thing except for everyone, the announcers. No one made notice of it, but everyone else noticed that was watching the show. Everybody noticed that there was a hand. Holy crap, there was a hand. I wasn't watching, and I heard about the hand. That's how
it was. Mark Henry and Mae Young's illegitimate hand.
I'll see if I can find the picture for the show.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, just this random hand came out from underneath the ring when he was laying there. I don't know. They're like, is it MVP's hand? And they're like, everyone's like, no, MVP was on the other side of the ring, unless he's got rubber arms, I don't know. From basically there's really not much that happened from what I've gathered, really.
Yeah,
everyone was kind of like it was just a show.
Yeah. Again, going through the motions.
There were some decent matches, but
I kept forgetting it was on. And then when JL texted last night, hey, anybody watched Hell in the Cell? I was like, oh yeah, Hell in the Cell's on. But I was out last night, so I didn't even care that I missed it. Like Tom said earlier, just
the other big thing is that somehow Alexa Bliss put Nia Jax under a trance or something in the match. I don't know. It was some weird thing. I don't even know what it was.
No, I'm not going to do it.
And then she attacked Reginald or something. I don't even know what the hell happened. It's one of those where it makes no sense, I'm sure.
Did Bray Wyatt show up, or is he still sad?
No mention of him at all from what they said. And then Rhea Ripley got disqualified for ripping the announce table apart.
I saw that, and by the way, it was the worst finish. So I had actually turned it on at this point.
Oh, okay.
I saw most of this match, which was actually somewhat of a decent match.
Yeah.
They could work well together. And then the finish, they get to the outside, and Rhea Ripley just decides to grab the announce table, that overhang part, and pull it back. Charlotte had to move forward so it would hit her. Uh-huh. She was too far back. It was just it was bad. As bad as the AEW botches at the end of their pay-per-views lately have been. This should be talked about with it, because she literally she was there and she's like, oh boy, and had to move up to do it. And that was the finish. The ref saw it and said, okay, we're going to disqualify Rhea Ripley. When have you ever seen a disqualification because of something on the outside of the ring?
I mean, other than like a blatant chair, nothing. Like, yeah.
This isn't the province of Quebec rules. Literally, the outside of the ring is like the Wild West. And yet, here's this. I'm just going to pull this up. Okay, that's a disqualification. Really?
That's just one of those. They just have no idea what the finish needs to be or what it should be, and they're trying something, and for some reason they don't want to beat Charlotte. So you just, I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you for listening to Through the Table podcast with Tom, Rick, Russ, JL, and Brian. Catch us on Twitter and Facebook. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Till next time.